Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is a garden question and answer video. I had gotten a ton of questions a couple Sundays ago on a video I had put up, and so this is the third video at answering questions from those. I usually do a question and answer video on Sundays. If you have questions for those, you can ask them down below, and from here I'll just get back on my regular schedule. But I had gotten so many that I wanted to like I say, do some extra videos and answer some additional questions. I hope these are helpful. One thing I had that I forgot to do in the first Sunday garden question and answer video that I told somebody I would do is I did a planting a shrub in a container video earlier in the week. I planted that red flowering encore azalea. You can probably see it back there into that container. And I didn't put gravel in the bottom of it, and I didn't really talk about that at all, and I should have when I was talking about planting something in a container. Gravel is something, a lot of people will put gravel and kind of loose rock in the bottom of their containers. And the thought on it is that it will create some additional drainage down at the bottom, a little pocket where the water can drain away. And logically it sounds helpful. But let me explain try to explain what actually happens. There's this spot in the bottom of a container that I actually call the kill zone, okay? When there's two forces acting. When you water the potting soil that's in one of these containers, there's two forces at play. There's the gravity that's pulling the water to the bottom of the container, okay? And then the other force is there's a wicking action happening with that soil. And the soil is trying to pull the water back up, okay? And so those two things are at play. And what generally happens is gravity wins for the most part and pulls most of the water to the bottom of the container. But the capillary action is what I should call it. The capillary action of the soil mix trying to draw water back up in the container wins a little bit. And it creates this little space down at the bottom where it actually stays abnormally wet. And I'm gonna set the shrub down now. So that's the area I call the kill zone. And most of the time, if you dump out a plant the next season, you'll see that there are almost no roots down at the bottom of the potting soil where you had things potted in pots the year before, because it stays too wet down there. I can kind of prove this with a sponge. If you'll wet a sponge and then put it on its side and just hold it up for a while, most of the water will drip out of that sponge, but they'll get to a spot near the bottom of that sponge where the wicking action of that sponge is starting to win a little bit and is fighting back against the gravity. When you put gravel down at the bottom of the pot, all you do is really raise the kill zone, is what I call it, from down here to up here. And so this is actually, this is well documented. It's not something that I've come up with in my lifetime. This is well documented. You don't want to put anything down here because it literally raises the area that holds the most water up into the root zone of your plants. And so it doesn't do the thing that everybody thinks it does. Okay, I should have said that in the video, that there is a reason that I don't use gravel in the bottom of the containers. There you go. Okay, so let's get started on some of the additional questions from that video. Somebody asked me about where to find unusual plants, and the reason they were asking me this is the J.C. Ralston Arboretum is over here near me, and they canceled their spring sale, and it's where a lot of the specialty nurseries sell things in the spring. And I would imagine this is happening all across the country, that any kind of public spring garden sales that normally happen are probably being canceled. And so for me, I would look at what vendors were going to be there. I know that I think Pine Knot comes down for that. I know, I went to Plant Delights a few weekends ago. That's a mail order nursery that's not far from me that does a lot of unusual perennials. Like I say, Pine Knot does them. I would look at the vendors who were going to be at those events and see if you can still. I know that J.C. Ralston Arboretum talked about just having their sale later in the season, so I hope they're able to do that. They propagate a lot of things that are at the Arboretum and then sell them as part of that sale, and so hopefully that'll still take place. But Dave's Garden website maintains a list of people's comments from mail order experiences. I actually did a lot of mail order. My nursery was called Earthworks Nursery. You're all welcome to look at my reviews on Dave's Garden, because I did some mail order for a little while, and I had 100% approval on there. I guess it's still on there. I don't. It's been years since I did it, but Dave's Garden is a place where people can go and review online plant companies. So go and check that out and see. You know, if you search for something, you find it, you see the vendor, you don't know whether you can trust them or not, you can go over to that list on Dave's Garden and then see what kind of reviews they've got. And don't take one negative as a negative. You know, plants going through the mail, people are going to have the occasional bad experience. That's just life of shipping things through the mail. So don't let one or two bad reviews throw you. If they have 99%, 98%, you know, approval, then, you know, go for it. But that's another resource. So you can just search on Google, find it, and then go and make sure it's a reputable source. Okay. All right. Somebody asked me, Japanese boxwoods don't smell as strong as the English boxwoods do, and I have to check on Holly, make sure she's not eating grass behind me. I can see her, but she's not in the grass. Japanese boxwoods don't have the same smell as the English boxwoods, and would they still be just as deer resistant? And they are, for whatever reason. Deer just don't mess with boxwoods. Even ones that are less fragrant, like the Korean boxwoods and the Japanese boxwoods, and even the American boxwoods are fragrant, but not like the English boxwoods. Somebody had just made a comment that they had bought some plants from me at my garden center a couple years ago, and they were thriving. So I appreciate you letting me know that. I may be taking some cuttings on some things during this season from some of the things in this yard that I may make available later. It's something that's in the back of my mind. Okay, somebody asked me when I was coming to Tennessee. I had talked about coming to Tennessee. I'm waiting for the red buds to leaf out because I'm going to a nursery that sells red buds over there. I don't know what the travel, you know, the world of travel will be in April, but I hope that's still on, and I'll let you know. It may be late April or early May, or heck, it may be fall at this point, and I may have to find another way to get my some of the pieces that I'm looking for over there. But we'll see. I will definitely be in Tennessee this year, and I'll let you know when that's going to happen. Somebody said Holly needs her own channel, and yeah, she probably does. She would probably have a much bigger channel. And I hit 60,000 subscribers today, and I'll thank everybody for that. I think this Sunday's question and answer, I thought about doing just an about me thing. And I've gone 3 years and 60,000 subscribers, and I haven't said a word about myself in any way, shape, or form, other than those of you who have been with me for 3 years have seen me sell a nursery, garden center, leave a farmer's market space, sell a house, and move to another city. So those of you who've been with me for a while know some of my life experience for sure. But I think on Sunday I'll go through and tell you how I started in this business and how I end up shooting videos in the backyard in Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay. But it won't be as popular as if Holly had a channel of her own. Somebody asked me about rabbit and deer in this neighborhood, and there are about 6 acres back here behind this fence that needs to be replaced. And there are deer back here. I have not had them hop over this little 4-foot fence, which they could do anytime they want to. Of course, rabbits can come back here. I put a rabbit netting over the lettuce over here. If you follow my Wednesday videos, you can see all of the progress that I've made on garden and everything over here. But I put netting across it because I figure rabbits would get to it. I am concerned about rabbits, not really concerned about those deer that are back there until they actually cause me a problem. If they ever come across here, I'm putting a 6-foot horizontal wooden fence around this yard, and that will end that problem. In the meantime, though, I do have some possibility of having damage, but not yet. Okay, somebody asked me about plants for zone 8B for full sun. And the only thing I mean, there's a lot of plants that will grow into full sun in zone 8B. I do have playlists, and I talk about this frequently. I have playlists for different, for all the different zones. And so any videos I've made for plants for zone 8 are in a playlist called zone 8. And that's the case with zone 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. If you'll go to my main channel page and look up at the top, there's a little tab that says playlist, and go through those playlists, and there's playlists for zone 8 plants, zone 7 plants, shade plants, vines, flowering trees, flowering shrubs, perennials, whatever I've done. And question and answer. If you want to go back and watch every question and answer video I've ever done, it's actually in a playlist called Question and Answer as well. Okay, somebody asked me about growing blueberries in New Jersey. New Jersey is literally the home of blueberries. They're native to New Jersey. They grow like crazy up there. Probably the best state, and one of the best states in the country to grow blueberries in. Perfect soil for it, acid soils, and wanted to know other things I could grow up there. You're lucky that you guys can grow raspberries up there. I have a hard time down here. The heat's a little too much for raspberries. So in New Jersey, blueberries and raspberries, and of course you can still grow blackberries up there too, but I'd grow raspberries all day long if I could. They're one of my favorites. Okay, let's go to the few more here. Somebody asked me about they have an organic garden and they didn't want to use triple superphosphate because they heard it wasn't organic, and that's true. Triple superphosphate is treated with sulfuric acid, and so it doesn't fit the criteria of an organic garden. You just need to use rock phosphate. Espoma sells rock phosphate. I'd love to be able to get a big bag of rock phosphate. I think the Espoma bags are like 4 pounds or maybe 8 pounds or something. I'd love to, if maybe you check with your garden center, and you can just use rock phosphate. You don't have to use triple superphosphate. Okay, and that will fit the organic criteria of putting phosphorus down on your soil. And that's all I ever use. I used to do organic lawn care, and we used rock phosphate. But I could find it by a 50-pound bag back then, but I was buying it by a pallet at the time. So I don't know if any garden center or any place, they maybe have access to get you a single 50-pound bag if you needed that much. Okay, somebody asked me about getting honeysuckle out of their yard, and are there any tips for it? It's just relentless work. All this ivy that I've got back here, these vines that are growing up here, all of the noxious weeds that I have growing around this perimeter of this place, they're just going to require constant vigilance. I have to get them out and then be vigilant for some period of time, maybe a year, and then I'll have won the battle at that point. They may still try to pop up here or there, but it takes vigilance for Holly. No, I don't know what she's eating. It takes vigilance for some period of time, and you can win those battles, but it has to just be constant. You can't go out and work one Saturday and then expect it to be done. You're going to have to work that Saturday, and then that following Saturday go out there again and start chopping things with a shovel again, and do that for some period of time. And then you can win those battles, but it's diligent, constant behavior that wins those battles. Okay. Somebody asked me about their pine straw. They used pine straw and it disappeared really, really fast. In all likelihood, that was slash pine or some sort of pine straw that was not quality pine straw, or longleaf pines that we have in North Carolina. Well, they actually stretch from North Carolina down to East Texas, but we still have a nice stand of them in Southern Pines in North Carolina, Southern Pines area, where Pinehurst #2 is, where the U.S. Open is played sometimes. And that pine straw lasts a long time, and I'm able to get that. I'm able to get long needled pine straw, and it has more oil content in it, and it lasts way longer, like 10 times longer. A lot of times what you're buying at the box stores is slash pine, and it just goes away super, super fast. So that was probably your actual experience. It's not pine straw necessarily, it's just the type of pine straw. The other, and then they asked me for other mulch recommendations. I'd like to use triple shredded hardwood. That'd be my number one. Number two is actually pine straw, because you can rotate pine straw in to let my mulch break down. I like to let my mulch break down occasionally and kind of almost go away. If you keep mulching and mulching and mulching on the same spot, you can cause yourself problems. So I like to mulch maybe with triple shredded hardwood maybe 2 or 3 times, and then pine straw once, and let it all kind of disappear a little bit, and then rebuild it again. And then I used wood chips out here, and wood chips, just because somebody was on my road chopping up a tree, wood chips work great. If you can find it, they're free. If you can get them, they're free. Be careful piling them up along, it's unbroken down wood, and so it can steal a little bit of energy in the process of breaking down. It needs nitrogen to break down, and so be careful. Don't mix it in the ground with your plants and that kind of thing until it's broken down. Okay, let's see. Somebody asked me about Burpee seed starting kit with pellets as opposed to using the seed starting mix like I do. I just buy a bag of seed starting mix and pour it in trays. And you know, the pellets are totally fine if that's what you want, but I always look at the economics of growing my own food, and you know, things that have to be repurchased kind of, you know, aren't my favorite. And so the black trays, the 50 cell black trays that I use for you've seen in my propagation videos, if you watch propagation videos, or any of my seed starting videos, they're kind of pricey. I got the Amazon store link down below, and if you go to the Amazon store and you look at those trays, they're kind of pricey, but they last years. You can, if you're careful with them, you can use them for a long time. I like those trays because I can carry 2 at the time. They're sturdy enough. And so it's a good purchase. And then all you have to do is get the seed starting mix, and it doesn't take a lot of mix to fill those trays. And so I prefer that over, for me, it's just, do I have to repurchase it? I'd rather spend a little more money up front and not have to rebuy it in the future. Okay, but whether one works better or not, no, they're the same. Okay, somebody, okay, let me see. Let me get one more here before we, okay, somebody asked me the best time to move a forsythia. Anytime, any day, same as I've talked about in other videos. Forsythia can be moved whenever. They're just finishing blooming in my area. I don't know where you are in terms of where they're blooming. If they're still blooming, enjoy the flowers and then pop it out of the ground and move it. I'd cut about 1/3 of it back. You cut forsythia back after they flower, and I'd cut about 1/3 of that plant back, dig it out of the ground and move it. You won't have any problem at all after it blooms, moving it. So I'll hold this one here. I've got a few extra questions if I don't get many for this next Sunday. And like I say, I may talk a little bit about myself, which I never do. And thank you guys for helping the channel grow over this last 3 years. And tomorrow I have tomorrow I have the Wednesday update video, and you can see Holly come through the dog door for the first time in that video. Thanks for watching.